Olá, sejam todos
Hello,
bem-vindos.
welcome. This is the second day of our CSCB Sustainability Forum 2021. This is going to be devoted to success cases in our chain. We'll get to know internal practices of companies, bearing in mind our environment. The Sustainability Forum 2021 is put together by Brazilian Leather, an initiative of the Tannery Center, CICB, and Apex Brazil, the agency to promote Brazilian exports. A special thank to our gold sponsors, JBS Coros, NBN Technology, and Smith & Zoom, and our silver sponsors, ATC Brazil, Buckman, Euro-American, the Association of Tannery Industries in the state of Mato Grosso, SINCURT, and Units Brazil. Let me remind you that this afternoon we'll be holding the 24th National Encounter of BQTIC. It will be both face-to-face and online. You can enroll and attend our presentations. Please click our link at the CICB website. We do have simultaneous translation today into English and Portuguese. To pick one language, click on the icon interpretation at the bottom of your Zoom platform. If you have any questions, submit them to contato@cicb.org.br. We'll be then submitting those questions to our speakers. There will be plenty of experiences this morning. 7 short presentations, all of them about ideas, solutions, and success stories about sustainability. A chemical corporation, a footwear company, a certification, and 4 tanneries will share their stories. We'll start with Smith & Zoom with Egbert Dickers, Global ESG Director for the company. The topic of his presentation is Smith & Zoom supporting leather sustainable production from the perspective of a chemical corporation. He'll be speaking in English. Welcome, Egbert. You can start your presentation now. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I see that it is visible at this moment. So I kindly welcome you in today's webinar, and I kindly thank the organizers for giving the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Egbert Dickers, and I'm Global Director ESG for Smith & Zoon. And I have been working with Smith & Zoon for close to 30 years, and in my current role, I lead the company in the field of ESG towards our mission to create a socially and environmentally sustainable leather value chain. And next to my role in Smith & Zoon, I am connected as co-chair to the Leather Working Group, Tannery of the Future, and I currently chair the Leather Naturally Management Board, which is the industry association focusing on education and promotion of leather. Today, I will share the perspective from a chemical company's point of view. I will share our view, how we can support the leather value chain, and more specifically, how we can support leather manufacturing towards more sustainability to further optimize this unique bio-based material. I have built my presentation around a few messages. And in short, there are 5 messages that I would like you to remember. The first one, it is important to realize that leather is made from an upcycled material, the byproduct from the food industry. And for me, this is just a confirmation that leather perfectly fits within the circular economy where nothing is wasted and everything can be recycled. Secondly, it's good to realize that most of the sustainable chemical solutions have been innovated already. It is now just a matter of implementing these solutions and continue optimizing them together. And thirdly, it is good to remember that real sustainability is considering the total cost of manufacturing, and more importantly, is considering the total cost of usage. Fourthly, I want to stress that details and facts do matter. More specifically, in my opinion, facts, details are crucial in making progressive steps forward. At last, it is good to realize that leather chemicals are strongly regulated, supporting brands to be able to buy leather that is meeting strict regulations and auditing programs. I will start with briefly introducing the company I work for. Smith & Zoon is a 7th-generation family business with a history of 200 years. We are 100% dedicated towards developing and marketing innovative chemistry to create sustainable leather that can meet the most strict material and physical characteristics. We are proud on the fact that on the occasion of our 200th anniversary this year, King Willem-Alexander of the Netherlands has granted Smith & Zoon the royal predicate this summer. Our history is built on a continuous focus on the future, which makes it very logically that ESG is so important to us. For us, for Smith & Zoon, ESG is explained by environment, where we list our commitments that focus on reducing the environmental footprint in the leather value chain. Social, where we list our commitments that focus on showing how we add value to people's well-being and to society in general. And governance, where we focus on ensuring that everything that we do is based on a strong foundation and measurable output. And within Smith & Zoon, we work with the 2025 ESG roadmap that is guiding us in our strategy. We are communicating our focus on sustainability by linking our strategy to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm sure that you are familiar with them, but shortly they are called the UN SDGs. In total, there are 17 SDGs, but we within Smith & Zoon, we have chosen 5 SDGs to be leading in defining our strategy. And in short, the goals that we focus on are SDG number 6, the focus on clean water and sanitation. And we focus on this because we want to reduce the water consumption in the leather industry and ensure that the final quality and quantity of wastewater can easily be cleaned. We focus on SDG number 8, decent work and economic growth. And we focus on that one because we want to share our knowledge in creating better and safer working conditions for everyone in the leather industry. And it is because of this that we show leadership in, for example, promoting the safe use of chemicals in our industry. And SDG number 12 is focusing on responsible consumption and production. We focus on that one because we want to ensure that our products are made from renewable sources where possible, and that we support the creation of a circular economy with the least possible carbon footprint on a leather article. SDG number 13 is focusing on climate change because this is affecting every country on every continent. It is disrupting national economies and affecting lives, weather patterns are changing, sea levels are rising, which is not so convenient if you live in the Netherlands, by the way, and weather events are becoming more extreme. And that's the reason why we keep on focusing on reducing the greenhouse gas emissions in our own premises, but especially to positively influence it in the supply chain and offsetting our footprint. And last but certainly not least is SDG 17, Partnership for the Goals. We have chosen this SDG because we are convinced that we need to collaborate within and outside the leather industry if we want to create a big impact. And that is exactly the reason why we are taking positions and actively work in the Leather Working Group, in the Sustainable Leather Foundation, in the ZDHC, in the Textile Exchange Leather Impact Accelerator, and in Leather Naturally. We are deliberately including these 5 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals in our strategy and in our company communication. And we do this because this is a common way of communicating progress in sustainability in an increasing number of countries and companies. And by using these wordings, it will be easier to connect to our customers, but especially also to the fashion brands, and speak a common language. To start with the first message, leather is an upcycled material fitting perfectly in a circular society where everything is used, nothing is wasted, and everything can be recycled. I'm sure that anyone in this call is realizing that leather is made from the hides and skins from animals that come available after the animals have been slaughtered in connection with dairy, wool, and meat production. I do include this slide and this message because this is the way that we as a chemical company are communicating externally when we are having the contacts, mainly with the brands. With our own networks, you and us together, we have a powerful voice if we all speak the same language and use the same arguments to engage with the brands, to engage with the consumers, with journalists, and with others. And it's important to realize that large groups of young generation think that, for example, the cow is specifically bred to manufacture leather. And as a result of this, they risk using plastics, PVC, PU as a replacement for biomaterials like leather. And the result of this will be that global warming will further increase by releasing carbon from the earth and risking a further deteriorations of our oceans with microfibers. It is good to realize and to be transparent in communication that next generations have a huge opportunity to use biomaterials like leather, which have unique characteristics in strength, in durability, in breathability, in repairability, and so on. I have included these 3 links in this slide that give you access to a study that was executed by Filk earlier this year and which was highlighted by Michael Meyer yesterday in person in this event. In this study, they have compared different materials, including leather, in different fields. And in the final testing, performance characteristics such as crack resistance and tear resistance, which are crucial in creating consumer goods with longevity, leather outperformed all its alternatives. This study is an interesting and worthwhile read for any product developer making choices about sustainable materials. And I think it's also up to us also to share this kind of reports with our own networks. I also included a link to a labeling fact sheet where you can find more backgrounds on the materials that are, for example, used in the so-called vegan leathers. It is good to realize that leather can only be called leather if it originates from an animal where the hide or skin structure is still present after it has been tanned. It's also good to realize that connecting the term leather to a non-leather item is illegal in several countries, while it is also a disputable way of communicating with the final customer. And thirdly, I added a link to a manifesto that has been set up in connection with COP26 in Glasgow. In that manifesto, over 30 leather organizations request global politicians to make smart choices by using natural materials like leather and others instead of releasing more carbon from the earth and creating a bigger waste stream with plastics. I think for all of us, it is good to realize that the increasing focus from governments and investment funds to move away from oil and gas production is a potential opportunity for leather. We should stress the message to keep the oil and the gas in the ground and instead focus on using biomaterials like leather that can lastly be made with chemistry that is increasingly made with bio-based and other chemistry that support biodegradability. Back to chemistry again. Most of the sustainable biochemical solutions are readily available. There are various responsible leather chemical companies that are very serious in innovating new chemistry and process. Next to this, the leather industry is blessed to have many very experienced and knowledgeable leather application technicians who really know how to fine-tune the leather making progress and minimize the environmental footprint. Next to enriching product portfolios with new innovations, chemical companies are focusing on continuously updating product ranges in line with, for example, the ZDHC MRSL to ensure that hazardous substances are eliminated or strongly reduced. Also within Smith & Own, we are having an internal long-term approach that is purely focusing on external regulations and expected regulations, next to unwanted substances that we want to eliminate ourselves in line with our own company mission. Talking about readily available solutions, I've mentioned a few that Smith & Own is focusing on. In 2020, our company Nera Tanning launched Zeology, which is a chrome-free, metal-free, and aldehyde-free tanning method. The reason why we have been focusing on tanning is that in our opinion, the biggest positive environmental and technical advantages can be obtained in this part of the leather manufacturing. We believe that the tanning process step is crucial in making big steps forward towards biodegradable leather. And we notice that this is a topic of prime interest for many of the larger brands. And here it is good to realize that especially the luxury brands are more interested in biodegradability of the waste streams in comparison with the final product that is made to last. And brands like Puma and Anya Hindmarch have introduced new ranges with Zeology for the simple fact that it supports them to create traceable, biodegradable, and compostable leather. In the recent years, we also strongly invested in developing new chemistry that is partly or completely replacing fossil-based chemistry. By doing so, we can reduce our environmental footprint, we can support society by keeping carbon in the earth, and it supports creating a higher biodegradability of leather. And also here, we notice that brands are continuously looking for new leathers that increase the natural content component and thus further build on leather being the ultimate natural material. One more example is focusing on optimizing existing ranges by further increasing concentrations of chemicals and thus further optimizing logistical handling and supporting the effluent treatment. It's a challenge for our technical leather application teams to run projects together with our customers where insights in recipes are shared and each chemical is challenged for its performance, both technically as well as environmentally. It is important to have a mindset that focuses on the total cost of manufacturing, as well as a mindset that is focusing on the cost per usage. And here the cost of usage is more referring to brands and consumers. As a chemical company, we still face discussions with a focus on the cost of a chemical per kilo instead of a focus on the cost per square foot of a manufactured leather. But luckily we see this changing, and this is crucial to make real positive impact. Collaborations between leather technicians from chemical companies and leather manufacturers, tanneries, can bring further benefits like the simplicity concept we have within our company. And in this concept, we focus on limiting the running time of processes, limit the number of washing baths, and minimizing the number of different chemicals used in recipes. In other words, keep it simple where it's possible. For real improvements, the meat packer, the chemical company, together with the leather manufacturer, must look at all the side streams and the waste streams. To begin with the side streams, it is crucial to realize that a long-term commitment from, for example, brands will be impacted by the price for leather. With the high prices still the biggest determining cost price component, it is important to realize the potential negative impact for meat packers and for the whole industry if a high price will result in brands moving away from leather. I'm convinced that this is what happened over the last years before COVID-19, and it will be difficult to get this business back. Leather does not need to be cheap. We are not a cheap material, but it must have a certain level of price stability to keep brands on board. So why not increase the price of meat and reduce the prices of hides and thus increase the attractiveness of leather for brands and prevent a waste stream to increase? It is also crucial that chemical companies as well as leather manufacturers intensify their collaboration by understanding potential waste streams and influence them. For us as a chemical company, for example, our prime focus is to increase the yield of the surface, to increase the renewability of our chemicals, to limit the pressure on the wastewater treatment plant, and ultimately to ensure that the waste stream, like cuttings and shavings, are biodegradable and compostable. But we also believe that we need to focus on brands, on designers, on material experts. We need to guide them and we need to support them to design new products in such a way that society benefits from it mostly. Creating new business models that focus on repairing, repurposing, recycling are just at the beginning phase. And the leather value chain, including chemical companies, can play a major role in this. Darmstadt University in Germany is currently involved in a project where the principal importance of design of a leather product is being analyzed with suggestions for improvement to be made. It is expected that this report will be released early next year. And Smith & Zoon has been involved in this because we believe that this is one of the ways of making our industry and our society more sustainable, which is crucial for the future of our industry. All in all, I'm also confident that life cycle assessment thinking will support the leather industry and society in general. I'm confident that LCAs at the consumer level and post-consumer level will confirm that leather is the preferred material, especially when you consider the longevity, repairability, and the compostability after the consumer usage. This is what we should aim for as an industry. Details and facts do matter. And this is bringing an important shift to the workload of TENNERs, of chemical research and development teams, of leather technicians, but also factory management. We believe that chemical companies have an important role in providing more and better details and facts. Transparent communication is important, it's crucial. Back in 2017, Smith & Zone launched its first product passport edition. And in this product passport, we shared a lot of details about our products, like for instance, COD, BOD, TDS, TSS, bio-based content, and several other details. And I very well remember that this was an exciting moment in our company and with my colleagues, taking in mind that we shared so much details, knowing that not all details were so positive. We had very strong internal discussions how we should explain data to our customers that were not as good as we would want them to be. But at this moment, we are already working on our third issue of the product passport. And our customers and our own teams, including our own chemical R&D teams, see the clear value of these data. Data don't lie. And we have experienced that these insights in our own products have tremendously helped us to make the next steps in improvements. We also learned that education is important and that it is important that we as an industry are going to establish a common language when we talk about sustainability. In other words, we should all basically understand sustainability concepts like biodegradability and the difference with compostability. We should understand that the carbon footprint is different from a life cycle assessment, and we should understand the impact of asking each other for this kind of data. Just recently, we hosted a series of sustainability webinars together with some of our partners like Prime Asia and Spin 360. And we noticed that these webinars helped our customers, but also our own teams to answer basic questions and to understand the impact of asking a question like, can you email me the LCA of your product range? It makes no sense. It really makes no sense to just collect data to fill the box in a checklist. Data sets like LCAs are meant to be data sets that help you to identify the environmental impact of your chemical or the leather that you produce. And Smith & Zone is also involved in LCAs, and we are currently executing an LCA on zeology as the chemical, but we also focus on an LCA on zeology tanned leather as well as on chrome tanned and aldehyde tanned leather. We can already say that this process is very interesting as this makes us realizing the full impact of, for example, a product like zeology, like for example, the fact that shavings can be composted. A lot of the details, like for example, waste and bio-based content of our products are annually reported in our ESG report that we issue according to the GRI or standard, where applicable and possible, by the way. We do this already since 2014, and we experienced that this transparent reporting is helping us to drive positive impact. There are still influences in society that want people to believe that leather is made with toxic chemicals. And I'm sure today's audience will understand that leather is largely made by responsible leather manufacturers who work with responsible chemical companies who market chemicals that meet the strictest conformance programs. As I said before, most of the sustainable solutions needed to manufacture sustainable leathers are already commercially available, and they are made by responsible leather chemicals producers. Responsible chemical manufacturers will be able to demonstrate conformance to different ISO standards. They will be able to support in working safe with chemicals. They will be able to show you ZDHC level 3 conformance, and they will be working with green energy, to name just but a few. Within Smith & Zone, we are proud that we have been awarded gold by EcoVadis. And I'm not sure if you know EcoVadis, but EcoVadis is a sustainability rating, which is increasingly being used by several of the leading brands, the tanneries, and leading chemical companies. And with the gold medal, Smith & Zone has proven to belong to the 7% of all the companies that are rated by EcoVadis. With many leather manufacturers already able to demonstrate the professional production by programs like the Leather Working Group and the CSCB program, and with chemical companies doing the same through the ZDHC, the leather value chain is increasingly being covered, and I think it's something to be proud of. I just want to stress that leather chemicals are strongly regulated and that responsible chemical companies are an excellent partner to jointly develop sustainable leather together. Concluding, I want to highlight a few things. And I know that today's audience is already understanding and valuing the unique characteristics of leather, and that leather is an upcycled material that perfectly fits in a circular and modern society where everything is used, nothing is wasted, and everything can be recycled. The reason why I mentioned this also in this group has to do with the fact that we as an industry, we need to be more confident, we need to be more proud and show to our networks that leather is not the problem, but one of the solutions for a circular society. It's because of this that I kindly request your attention to support Leather Naturally in membership and to support Leather Naturally's consumer campaign, which is broadcasted under the Matcha platform. Secondly, already today, you can commercially buy sustainable biochemical solutions that can support sustainable leather manufacturing. And thirdly, a shift to total cost of manufacturing and total cost per usage thinking is crucial. And this can only be reached by transparent collaboration projects between chemical companies and leather manufacturers and the brands. Fourthly, details and facts, they do matter. In fact, they are crucial to understand the problem and to make responsible decisions. And last but certainly not least, leather chemicals are strongly linked with the ZDHC program that fully focuses on chemistry, including the effect on the waste streams. I would like to thank the organizers of this event for the invitation and would like to end by stressing that leather adds strong value to a circular and responsible society. And the responsible leather chemical companies are ready to support the leather industry in this. Finally, I would like to thank the Leather Naturally members in this event for the membership, and I would like to invite all others to consider joining us as a member and jointly focus on global education and promotion of leather. I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a very good rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Obrigado, Egbert. Excelente conteúdo.
Thank you, Egbert. Excellent content. Let's go to the first case from a tannery. The presentation is CSCB from Fuga Chorus. It will be up to Simone Flack to make that presentation. She'll be describing the roadmap to the first CSCB certificate. Let's learn more about that story. Good morning, everyone. I'm here to describe our implementation of the CSCB certificate. I work in the controllership department and I'm in charge of certificates and their implementations. So this is what we did. Let me share my screen with you so that we can take a look at the presentation now. Why did we decide to join the CSCB process? We have a very close partnership with CSCB. Our directors have a close link with their projects. So when we first learned about the project, it seemed to us that was very robust, and we started to learn more about it. And we strongly believe in the cause of sustainability. That's why we decided to be one of the pioneers to join the certificate program, to learn more about it, to study it. That's why we decided to implement that at Fuga Chorus. We started holding training sessions. We tried to understand that norm because we used to use the 296 and the 297 standards. That's why we based ourselves upon. So this is what happened right after that. When we talked to the auditors, they were basing themselves on that standard, the 296 standard. We ended up getting mixed up, actually. Our first audit was more complex because we resorted to the in-metro standard. We're still trying to learn that. And also the auditors were still at the early stages of that certificate. That was the first hurdle we had to overcome. Then we had the certification audit per se. In-metro monitored the process. Falcon Bauer was the only accredited company. And then we had someone from in-metro and another expert person on the process. We had many questions, actually. We were awarded the silver certificate then. So we were the first company to be certified by the CSCB. I would like to emphasize that we wanted to be pioneers because we will be celebrating our 75th anniversary next year. And then we actually understood what was actually needed. And we decided that we had to improve. So we followed all the recommendations to reach the golden certificate the following year. We adapted as much as we could. So that was a journey, actually. And we ended up getting that gold certificate. At the same time, the market also demanded more stringent processes, and I'm referring to restricted substances. At the time, we had almost no one to resort to as to what was restricted substance per se. Foreign customers were demanding those certificates. So that was the most difficult part. We had a hard time finding someone who actually knew these requirements. We worked hard trying to organize that. Now we do have a training program in place, but we had a hard time at the start to try to understand what restricted substances were. Customers had a different understanding of what that was. So we had to dive deep and truly understand what the subject matter was. Today, we know who to look for whenever something new comes up. There are standards according to that norm, and customers want more and more traceability as far as the leather goes. The Amazon region, they're concerned about it. We have to show them we are operating according to the standard. Things are way more organized now because of the standard. The new standard is just pending approval from in-metro. This is going to be even more detailed. That goes hand in hand with what the market wants. The standard helped us heading in the right direction. And we're going to learn even more because, again, that's a demand from the market. So this standard is now being reviewed. A metro has to approve that still. Questions have been clarified. So this is now broken down by subject. I attended their meetings to address every issue. We also sat together with companies that already had that certificate in place, trying to improve parts of it. So we're just waiting for Inmetro's validation to adopt this new release, which brings in many improvements. And of course, it has a lot more to add to the system. So here are the benefits. Being a certified company, you have more respect from the marketplace, more visibility to the marketplace, more trust, better internal organization. Whenever we are audited, auditors say, oh, you already have the CSCB certificate. That's fine. So it has to do with water consumption, power use, waste management. The focus is on the environment as well as the community. We have a foundation that works with communities in places where we operate, labor laws, the standards, always paying attention to workers' safety. And of course, establishing a better planet for future generations. And of course, it has to be economically feasible. It's getting harder and harder to meet all these requirements. But in a nutshell, these are the benefits you get with the certification. So here's what we want with the certificate. Whenever customers see that we do have that certificate, we want customers to feel safe that we do have a standard process in place. We follow these requirements to the letter. And this is a certificate that is updated on a yearly basis, which forces us to have continuous improvement. We want to take a step further so that we can reach that standard. So what does the future hold? The 2030 agenda, Brazil is a signatory to it, and there's no turning back in that direction. We have to be prepared. Traceability, restricted substances to take good care of the environment and the people. So Brazil has met or has made that commitment. And companies, of course, have to adapt. We believe it's too far ahead into the future, but the future is just around the corner. So we have to comply with that regulation. In sum, a sustainable company has to be economically feasible, socially just, and environmentally right. In other words, this is what the standard is all about, and the company is all about as well. So this is what I had to say. That's our experience, and thank you very much.
Agradecemos a Simone e a toda a diretoria do Fuga Couros.
Thank you, Simone, and thank you to the board of Fuga Coros, a very traditional company that is renowned in the leather industry. Our next case will discuss the Origem Sustentável certification program, including its metrics and impacts. This talk will be delivered by Silvana Dilli, Superintendent of the Asintecal, the Brazilian Association of Companies of Components for Leather, Footwear, and Manufactured Goods, and Christian Schindewine, PM at Abicalçados, the Brazilian Association of the Footwear Industry. Let's learn more about their most recent news and updates. Hello, everyone. My name is Silvana, and I am a superintendent at Asintecal. Thank you for this opportunity to introduce our program to you with Abicalçados. Hello, everyone. My name is Christian, and I am a PM. It is an honor for me to take care of sustainable origin or origem sustentável in the footwear industry. Great. I would like to start off by saying that the Sustainable Origin Program is the only certification for these processes globally. We don't work only with the materials industry, but we work with the materials industry and the footwear industry. Because in order to have sustainability, certifying footwear only or components only is not enough. That is why we're putting together components and finished products to tackle the whole sector, the whole industry. And you know, CICB has a sustainability program called CSCB. So in this chain, we are working at every link to make sure it is certified. There's something really important here from when we created this program. Sustainable Origin, our certification program, is not certifying products, but production or manufacturing processes. Because products that are sustainable, environmentally speaking, is not enough if manufacturing processes are not good, if companies are not properly hiring their employees, or if they don't have environmental stewardship. So our certification goes beyond products. We certificate processes. The Sustainable Origin program is also based on international trends tackling sustainability. It's impossible to try and be competitive only in Brazil. Of course, we need to take international metrics into account. Both in components and footwear, we export a lot as well, so we need to be competitive globally. We are always in alignment with ESG standards, and we're always taking a look into international trends for sustainability. We can see a few examples here. We have the B system, which is an example, and we follow up on these metrics. Companies could look for two kinds of certification. We can certify brands or facilities. These are two different options. And this program is for members from Asintecal and Abicalçados. So you need to be a member of one of these associations to get the certificate. I would love to make a comment. We're trying to approach sustainability in a broad way in our certification program. Sometimes we're a bit myopic when it comes to the environment. We only think about the environment, but we were able to name the 5 pillars of sustainability without being short-sighted. So here we have indicators to take into account the management of a company, taking sustainability into account, economic impact, environmental impact, social impact, and cultural impact. So these are the pillars that we use for every indicator. We also work with different levels of certification because it is about making progress. When companies try to be more sustainable, oftentimes these companies already work with many of these indicators, but we want to cater to everyone. So you could try to become a bronze, silver, gold, or diamond member. To have your bronze certification, we have differences between small companies and medium and large-sized companies. Small companies need to cater to 20% of indicators. For the other ones, 30%. For silver, 40%, gold, 60%, and diamond, 80%. So you need to fulfill the requirements of 80% of indicators. And as my colleague was saying, we are not working only on the environmental pillar, because oftentimes when we talk about sustainability, people only think about the environment or only think about society, but we need to think about the economy and we need to think about culture as well. If products are not, for example, priced appropriately, this kind of transaction won't be sustainable in the long term. So we need to look at these companies with a 360 approach to understand all of these processes. This is how the certification goes. Our first step is a self-assessment in a portal. This is a portal belonging to a partner of a Sintecal and Abicalçados. We have basic questions here for companies to assess if they're ready to join this program. If they get the green light from this self-assessment, then they are verified to join the program, and that's when we go into registration. Companies will sign a document where they make a commitment to get ready within a year to request their certification. This preparation process includes a toolkit. In this toolkit, we include information about dimensions or pillars and indicators. So in the social dimension, we say what is going to be assessed and how to prove it. For example, if we have the indicator of working with electricity consumption, we then say how this is going to be evaluated later. Then we have auditing. We have external auditing from partners. These auditors go to these companies and perform these assessments in a hybrid way. So some of the audit is done online and some of the audit is done in person. After the audit, we get reports. If they are from components, they come to a Sintecal. If they are from footwear, they go to Abicalçados. So they have this full year to get ready and then request their certification. After becoming a certified company, these companies have 2 years to stay in the level where they're at, for example, bronze, silver, gold, or diamond, and then they'll have to get recertified. These are the accredited audits: SGS, Bureau Veritas, DNV, and Senai. And there's also Intertech, right? Yes, there's Intertech too. So these are the audit companies that are in this program to verify these metrics. They are the ones sending us reports. Now let me talk about our seals. Our seal is the final step to prove that companies have been accredited according to one of these different levels that Silvana was talking about. Companies can use this seal, of course, this stamp, but they also get a certificate. And we always tell them to use this to bring new business in and to show that the company is sustainable. One of our most recent updates was the migration of our seal. In the past, we would show the specific level of certification for this company, but now we have more rich information with a QR code. By scanning this QR code, consumers, buyers, or anyone who wants to scan this seal in a piece of packaging, on a box, or on any resources from the company will be able to find a full data set with transparent information about the certification process for this company. So this is how this works. Here for this specific company, we see the score that they got. We see their company data, their contact info, and we see initiatives related to sustainability promoted by this company. So right now, our portal is another tool for transparency. It is another tool for sharing information with those who are interested. You can also spread the word about your company and create a good network of people who are certified. Right now, over 50 companies are undergoing the certification process between components companies and footwear companies. We believe a lot in sustainability. And right now, for Asintecal and Abi Calçados, sustainability is no longer an option. It is an obligation. Consumers demand it. They want to understand how a product was created. And we truly believe that sustainability could be big for Brazil. Germany represents technology. Brazil could represent sustainability. And we're talking about an industry addressing a number of social, environmental, economic, and cultural aspects. Through Asintecal, Abi Calçados, and CICB, I believe we can showcase this tool and we can appreciate a program that was created in Brazil. This program belongs to our associations, and we are working with these dozens of companies for this certification. I believe I can also speak on behalf of Abi Calçados when I say that we are going to keep on working on this in upcoming years to get these companies to a sustainability level that is really good worldwide. This is a commitment we've made. Exactly. Finally, we'd like to invite you to get to know more about this program. So please visit our website. We've updated our website and we now have it in 3 languages because we do want to foster business to these companies and to spread the word internationally. So please check it out. Finally, we have a sustainability case from a footwear company, one of the first ones who got our certification. By the way, I think they were the first one to get the diamond certificate, which is Calçados BB. We're going to watch a short video to see their case. So let's check their initiatives and their results when it comes to sustainability. Thank you for having us. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and we're available to you if you're interested in our certification program. Thank you for having me. If you need any information, both of our associations are available to you.
A Bibi foi a primeira empresa no Brasil a pensar em calçados infantis. Hoje nós temos a maior rede de lojas de calçados infantis e acessórios do Brasil. É uma empresa que exporta para mais de 60 países em todos os continentes e ela tem no seu DNA muito a questão da inovação e também da sustentabilidade.
100% dos nossos resíduos industriais são reciclados ou coprocessados. E também transformamos muitos desses resíduos industriais em novos produtos. Nosso primeiro ano de atuação junto à energia renovável foi no ano de 2015 e desde lá 100% da energia elétrica adquirida pela Bibi segue esse conceito aí de energia renovável proveniente de fonte eólica ou solar. Plantamos o equivalente a 4.000 árvores com essa ação, que é uma ação extremamente relevante também sob o ponto de vista ambiental.
O programa Origem Sustentável ele veio para subir mais essa evolução aí da sustentabilidade aqui no nosso negócio. Agora estamos aí recertificando o nosso selo diamante. No campo social, nós temos aí um programa super bacana, que é a nossa Fábrica de Talentos, né, que é uma parceria, né, de ensino que a gente tem com o Senai, mais de 550 jovens. Muitos desses jovens, né, ingressaram no primeiro emprego aqui na Bibi mesmo. Então são várias ações aí que a gente está planejando e que entram dentro desses 12 compromissos aí da sustentabilidade.
Compradores internacionais podem esperar das empresas brasileiras empresas altamente sustentáveis, empresas seguras que perpetuam no mercado sob o ponto de vista econômico e também sob o ponto de vista ambiental.
Agradecemos aos colegas da Sintecal e da Bicalçados.
Many thanks to our colleagues at Abicalçados and Asintecal for sharing this information with us. The Origem Sustentável certification program has been bringing a lot of innovation to the footwear chain, and I'm sure that it has been helping to foster best practices in this industry. Now let's get to know more about another tannery with Valley to talk about its processes in solid waste disposal. Solange Pauletti, their manager, is going to share a really interesting case that they built over the last years regarding the company's commitment for better waste disposal. Let's now learn how Valley was able to get to zero solid residue or zero solid waste sent to landfills. Good morning, everyone. My name is Solange Pauletti, and I am a manager at Valley. I'll be discussing how we manage solid waste at the company. Let me share my screen. So this is how we dispose of solid waste. First, let's talk about sustainability. We have been improving constantly, but for the future, we need to be proactive. Valley is considered a sustainable company in its production processes. We want to mitigate environmental impacts. For that, through initiatives and through role modeling, we're trying to establish this kind of behavior within our company. So let me share a video about our company and then we'll be back to the presentation.
Valley is a national and international reference in the leather industry, specialized in delivering reliable quality, newness, and on-trend materials to its partners. This is Valley, a company committed to its values, always investing in endless efforts to achieve excellence. To continue to be recognized as one of the leaders in the leather finishing industry by customers, Valley continues to invest in new technology of machinery, use best-in-market chemical products, very strong technical team, and use traceable raw material. Valley is also recognized for its commitment with sustainability, recently been audited and awarded with Diamond Seal by national entity CSCB, Center for Brazilian Tanning Industry. This achievement is a result of Valley's commitment to follow industry guidelines on environmental requirements by FEPAM, fire safety regulations by PPCI, and safety labor regulations by Labor Bureau. Valley was awarded by achieving 100% of the required credits from norm ABNT NBR 16296, which regulates water and energy consumption, management of restricted substances, managed water discharge process, quality control, raw material source traceability, and health and safety of the workers are some of the main points of evaluation.
CSCB, it's a Brazilian certification, many times compared to LWG, but it's more focused on sustainability. Here at the tannery we are Diamond Seal, and it's very important for us, commercially speaking, because many brands are looking for something on the same line that we are. CSCB Diamond Seal means that we can guarantee that our process will achieve the best sustainable practice to our customers.
Here in more details how Valley manages the process. Managing its own water treatment process, we are able to reuse 90% of the treated water. On the energy side, the heat used in production process, Coro Valley only works with wood extracted from renewable forests. Management of an extensive list of restricted substances following customer requirements from all over the world, including North America, Europe, and Asia. Strong commitment on raw material traceability, making sure suppliers sign agreements to only supply hides from slaughterhouses following required standards and avoid hides from cattle raised in the Bioma Amazônico area. Production process implemented a stamping process with PO information to enable to trace hide sources to the final customer. Coro Valley has an internal recycling process department to separate all the waste and works with industry's recycling companies to assure all requirements for our gold LWG auditing and diamond seal requirements by CSCB. Coro Valley is committed to deliver to its customer a sustainable product, assuring to follow strictly their commitment with the environment established with LWG and CSCB auditing process, and will continuously work aiming to deliver top quality product to its customers.
Então, o vídeo mostrou pouquinho da importância das certificações para
In this video, we could see how important these certifications are for our company. We were able to deploy a number of changes at Coro Valley because of that. Now, let me talk about wastewater treatment more specifically, or actually solid waste management. Solid waste is separated, picked, and sent to our internal central, where we have screening of these materials to then decide whether we're going to send these waste to recycling or reprocessing. And let me say something regarding landfills. Landfills were created to reduce environmental impact. These are places used for solid waste generated by different industries. But to reduce environmental impact even further, in September of 2020, we reached one of our goals, which was sending zero solid waste to landfills. We tried to approach this waste with more appropriate processing technologies. Here we see a few pictures of industrial landfills, just in case you're not familiar with them. So here we see our evolution from 2016 on. We've had better years, we've had worse years when it comes to sending waste to landfills. But in 2020, we see a steep drop because as of September, we stopped sending solid waste to landfills. And as you can see, we had zero remittances to industrial landfills in 2021. So where do we send this? Our first option right now is co-processing at 59.1%. This is what we call our waste central. This is where we receive internal waste and we do screening. We have different bays according to different classes. We have class 1 and class 2 products. Here we see the biggest types of waste created in this process. We have industrial product packaging. We have sludge from wastewater treatment, which is pressed. We have paper and cardboard. We have plastic film coming from transfers. We have ash from the boilers. And we also have dust from sanding. There's also leather scraps, and there's any kind of sand from dangerous cleaning. So let me talk a little bit more about co-processing, because this is our biggest option right now. Co-processing is a sustainable technique. It's used as alternative fuel for cement industries. Let me also talk about the type of waste we send to co-processing. We have sludge from painting stations. We have contaminated materials with paint and solvents. We have broken fiber, we have fabric, we have PPE materials, we have plastic film, contaminated film, paper or cardboard which has been contaminated, wood sawdust, and also sludge from wastewater treatment. So these are the main types of waste that we generate, these two. We have bigger volumes here. So this is plastic film and this is sludge from wastewater treatment. By the way, with plastic film, we've been struggling a bit. We've been looking for better destinations for this, and this is one of the types of waste that still went to landfills. It was really hard to recycle it. So last year, we ran a new test with co-processing, and we were able to include it in the co-processing. It wasn't about restructuring necessarily, but we have a different type of screening and crushing right now. So we found a way to co-process this waste. Let me talk about the methodology of co-processing. We use blending. We mix and crush all of this waste. So we create this blend, which has high calorific value and which is used as an option as fuel for cement kilns. Then this ash is fully incorporated into cement. Regarding recycling and recovery, we use leather scraps, leather dust, solvent, and also ash from the boilers. For decontamination and sales, we have metallic drums, containers, plastic drums, and also non-contaminated paper and cardboard. Now, why is it good to send these materials to co-processing and recycling? Well, we can reduce or eliminate environmental liabilities. We can transform these byproducts in raw materials. We can reduce the amount of waste that goes to landfills. We can preserve and protect our natural resources. We can save water and electricity, and we can also foster better environmental awareness. We reaped fruit from this certification. First, we started monitoring the consumption of water and electricity. We also reduced and monitored volatile organic compounds. We worked on monitoring restricted substances. We deployed traceability. We fostered engagement with our internal audiences and our community. We worked on solid waste management, including all of the types of waste that I just showed to you. We improved quality control and we monitored productivity or yield. Some of these are really important. They are related to monitoring, and we started deploying them because of the certification. Thank you so much for having me. Here's my email if you have any questions or comments. Thank you so much.
Muito bom. É caso excelente.
Very nice. This is an excellent case that can give us insights to other companies in our industry. Let's move on to the next case, standardization, processes, and improvements from CSCB at the MATS Tannery. Manuela Junqueira Becker, the director of the company, is making the presentation now. Good morning, I am Manuela. I am the director of the MATS Tannery. I'll be talking about the relationship with the tannery, with the CSCB, more focusing on processes and standardization. Let me share my screen with you. Standardization processes and improvements from CSCB at the MATS tannery. Before I talk about the topic, let me briefly describe who MATS or what MATS is. We were founded in 1989 in the city called Novo Hamburgo, but we actually started out in 1990 when this current administration took office. And then we moved to Tres Coroas. So we worked in fashion, footwear, and in the past decade, as of 2011, we were already thinking about the future and innovation. And then we moved to Campo Bom. Since 2015, we've been operating there 100%. And that unit was designed to include cleaner production technologies. In 2017, we started the succession process. On top of those improvements, we needed something to show what we were doing. That's when we resorted to certificates. We've been gold certificate in 2018. So I've been 2019, 2020, and now 2021. We have been recertified. Let me talk about CSCB per se. This is our experience as far as the audits go. That was a situation before the first audit. Our major challenge had to do with evidence. That's when we began to collect evidence. We found out we did a lot of stuff, but we didn't record it. So there were many things we were doing, but we cannot prove. There's no point in just being. You have to be able to prove what you do. At the very start of that preparation, we ended up going all the way in creating documents. We have a person dedicated to that certification process. Whenever that person needed information, they will be talking to people from other areas. They would create documents for HR, for suppliers. And there's that business culture in place. This is not what one person believes. It is what it is. That's when you say, well, in this company, we do it this way or that way, because that's how people learn to operate. You can change that culture, but it takes time. There's no point in trying to start implementing many things all of a sudden. I have a business administration background, and I would like to talk about the theory of bureaucracy. And when we go to college and we start studying the theories of bureaucracy and organization, when it comes down to it, this is a word that is usually associated with something that is bad, a lot of paperwork. But in reality, that's not what happens. The theory is there aiming for excellence. There are many things in this theory that have to do with the certification, legal character of norms and regulations, the formal communication, authority levels, procedure routines. When we talk about papers and documents, we have to understand that they are indeed important, but it should not be placed before the process itself. Otherwise, you'll fall into that paperwork quagmire I was referring to. In the preparation for the first audit, we decided to put together a task force and define what we had to do. We established a small committee made up of people from work, safety, HR, purchasing, to include suppliers. The finance department and the maintenance team was involved too. We established a standard for documents, and these are the types of documents. Number one, policies, guidelines followed by the tannery. Sustainability policy is one of them. Based on sustainability, it defines what's important for the tannery and how we implement these policies. And then we have the commercial policy. It has to do with relationship with customers, suppliers, the marketplace overall. And we also have an HR policy. These are the main guidelines for our HR department. And then we move on to manuals, which are more practical in nature. Restricted substances manual that has to do with the CSCB certification and the sustainability manual. Unlike policies, these manuals are more practical, describing how you manage a tannery. When we talk about sustainability, we think about the environment. But there's a tripod, actually, social and, of course, economic pillar. So this is the business side of it. It has to be economically sustainable. We have the PSGS. These are procedures of sustainability management. The number one, or the first one, is a procedure that explains how documents are organized, who approves what, how they're reviewed, and then work instructions. These are simpler documents. They describe step by step what function does. We have work instructions at every machine, explain how they operate. And we have those for administration departments. So it's very operation oriented so that we can capture that knowledge of people who are working today, because tomorrow a newcomer won't have to start from scratch. They'll know how things were done, and then you can improve from there. And now reports or registrations, tables, lists, everything you have to write down. This is what we call the registers. We try to simplify them as much as we can. If we can use the same in more than one area, fine, so that you don't replicate the same document over and over. People have to understand that important information will be registered there. These are our main, or this is our main evidence, so to speak. So we sat down with different departments trying to understand how we could simplify to find out what they actually use, what could improve their day-to-day routines. Evidence, registrations, documents are there to support the work of these departments. We conducted training programs as far as controls goals, documents, certificates, sustainability. Oftentimes, people that work in these departments, we know what sustainability is all about. It's part of our day-to-day activities. But there are people who are working in different departments. They're not faced with sustainability on a daily basis. So it's important to explain what sustainability is all about to them, to our company, what Max does as far as sustainability goes, economically speaking, socially, and environmentally speaking, so that every employee knows what we're talking about. So we ended up simplifying the analysis of that standard, what we do and what can be improved. We focused on those areas in which we did not meet the requirement. So this is the result. This is our first certificate. That's a group photo. Back in 2018, we had a party with the entire team there. We again had another ceremony with our customers and our top partners. And that's nice. If you haven't had a ceremony like this, I think you should celebrate your successes. Oftentimes you say, no, that's the least we could do. The other tanneries already have the certificate, but this is a major achievement for any company. Do celebrate with the team, with the people that are important to you. As a company, these are our customers, partners, suppliers. These are some of the highlights in the past 4 years. Positioning. We've talked about the 3 policies. Positioning is that guideline that companies have. All of them do. When you write them down, that's important. Not everyone has a chance to talk to a director or someone who can provide you with the guidelines. If you have a document with those guidelines, you can make sure that everyone has access to it. The track record. Let me give an example from the samples and cost area. In the samples department, we come up with a sample and that is submitted to the costs department to approve it or not. So here's what happened. In the past, people that worked in that area knew a lot about it. So they would just write down a couple of things to be reminded of what they needed to make the proper calculation. Today, we have different people working there. So whenever we have to go back to something that took place before 2018, it's very difficult to grasp what's written down there. Today, we do have a standard in place. By replacing people, the standard remains. The codes are the same, so it's a lot easier. We have been able to capture that knowledge, and in these two areas, samples and costs, it's obvious, it's plain to see how important that standard helped them improve their work. Monitoring, critical analysis meetings. We have a pre-scheduled meeting at least once a year, but it's usually twice a year. And you had a predefined agenda to make sure you discuss everything that has to be discussed. Again, knowledge, work instructions at every machine. So the knowledge of people are captured there. And that's how we can have continuous improvement. When you have someone who's already there, tries to think about improving what they do, they don't have to go back to square one. They start from that base ground and then improve their work. Production controls. Of course, we had those reports, the technical reports. But with the certification, we have been improving these records in further detail. Performance assessment of our workers. We have a standardized analysis. This is the time you look at the team, you write that down, talk to people. This is a very important moment for feedback. Today, we have a single control of all investments made in infrastructure, production, development. It's an entire control of licenses, certificates, operation licenses, environmental licenses. It's a lot easier to find these documents whenever we need them. We do have licenses for our contracted out personnel. That was very easy to manage these people. Now we keep track of all their licenses, water and power use. We had all the legal licenses. Now, by managing it on a monthly basis, on a daily basis, it's a lot easier to monitor all these requirements to see how we stack vis-a-vis the competition. Traceability of leather. We had stamps before, but now we do have a document starting all the way from the supplier all the way to consumer. We made a huge progress there. Suppliers as well, we can manage our top suppliers, especially raw materials and chemicals. We have at least a one time a year monitoring of these suppliers. And the control and management of restricted substances. This is very clearly explained in the standard, albeit it's not that simple to understand. So we keep on talking to suppliers and consumers, and I'm sure that we have made huge progress in managing these issues. And the same thing applies to residue management. We had something in place before, but today we are way more organized to compare evidence, numbers, reports. That's what we need to better manage our businesses. We have the track record and those lessons learned. Eduardo Galeano made that statement, and I adapted it somewhat, and I use that every time we have an audit. Excellence is way out in the horizon. I take 2 steps, it moves away 2 steps further. I walk 10 steps and the horizon moves away 10 steps. No matter how much I walk, I'll never reach it. So why is that search for? The only purpose is that we never stop walking. We're doing fine, great, congratulations, but there's still room for improvement. Today we have way more knowledge about the business than what we had back in 2018, and we can do more. This is what inspires us to be even better. A couple of pointers for those of you who haven't had the certificate yet. Number one, take a deep breath. It's fine. I know you are concerned whenever you read the standard and you collect evidence, but I'm sure that you have most of the requirements. All you have to do is understand what the standard needs. Put a committee together. Bring in the most important areas: HR, supplier, customers, production, restricted substances. Bring these people together and form a committee. It will involve more people, but we need those people that are meeting on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, that are part of that committee. We have to have that in place. Put the standard under your arm and read it and read it and read it. I was part of the team that conducted the last assessment of our last certificate. I have the regulation on my desk. Whenever we talk about an improvement we want to implement, whenever we have that conversation, people end up forgetting about what the standard wants. So go back to the regulation, read it again, talk about it. Oftentimes, you end up having way too more than what the standard wants. Establish a document control. You don't have to have all the documents I listed before. It's a lot easier. It's better. People will acknowledge the value of that standardization and look at what you already have been doing and how you can improve it. You don't have to start from scratch. You had to do it all over again. No, wait a minute. Look at what you were doing. How can you improve this a little bit here, a little bit there? And write down who you are, your values, guidelines, rules, procedures. We didn't have the 3 policies. We didn't have all procedures in place in our first year. There is continuous improvement year after year. You don't have to be perfect from the start. Start by describing who you are, what's important to you. Train everyone involved again and again and again. People have a lot to do. Certificates are yet another thing to do. They have to include that on their daily activities, and they have to learn. They have to be trained and then teach. And training is constant for every activity. Talk about the certification, talk about sustainability. Bring in employees to conferences like this one. Show what you do, especially those of us at the C level. Since we know about stuff, we believe, we think everyone knows about it. Everyone knows what we do. No, that's not the case. Not every employee knows all the controls, all the great practices we have implemented. Tell them about them. How you control the water treatment plant? How do you manage waste? What type of licenses a tannery has to have? Encourage people to be part of it and to see the value in change. Just like I gave the example of the samples and cost areas, they realize the value that is there. Show them. So in the past, you didn't have that record. Isn't it better today? Isn't it faster now, now that you know what to do? Isn't it easier when you have to find a document? Help people find value in the change. And finally, don't fear audits. I know we feel anxious, but I've done 4 or 5 now. The last one was back in November. Audits are just awesome. It's a chance we have to continuously improve. The auditors can come up with suggestions, but just by showing documents, you come up with your own insights. I write down a ton every time I realize when I hear about something. So the audit is a very important tool to help us to continuously improve. Don't fear it. Everything will work out fine. Finally, thank you. I hope you have understood my fast pace in my presentation, but this is a summary of the past 4 years as far as our experience goes with the CSCB. These are social media, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Don't hesitate to get in touch. One of the most important things is understand, as the leather industry, we have to be partners. We have to share experience to improve our process, our market. We shouldn't work in isolation, and we should share as much as we can. That's it. Thank you again. I would like to thank the Center for the Brazilian Tanning Industry. It's always a pleasure to talk about Max. Thank you once again.
Many thanks to Manuela for telling us about their experience with CSCB at their tannery, sharing how this standard improved their internal processes and their opportunities for the future. Let's now watch the sixth case study of the CSCB Sustainability Forum. This one is from Arezzo & Co., which leads a number of extremely relevant brands in their industry, such as Arezzo, Schultz, and Alexander Berman. Suellen Joner, the group's head of sustainability, will be our next speaker. Welcome, Suellen. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Suellen Joner. Today, I'll be talking to you about sustainability at the Arezzo & Co. group. I'm their head of sustainability. I will also be talking about how we develop this strategy in our supplier chain. I've been working with sustainability for over 15 years. Over 10 of these years were spent in the fashion industry. And I started at its foundation in slaughterhouses, both with live animals and dead animals. So I know this chain in depth, and it is the chain that now provides us our main raw material, which is leather. So I've been focusing on sustainability from the get-go. And it's important for us to think about sustainability from the beginning, from when animals are raised and slaughtered. And now it's been a few months that I've been working at Arezzo & Co. as the head of sustainability. Let me share my screen with you. I'd love to share more about our strategy. For the Arezzo & Co. group, sustainability is determined or described as a norm to look for sustainability in these brands. In our sustainability strategy right now, we have three big pillars. Number one, responsible production. Number two, a healthy environment. And number three, empowering our people. Responsible production has to do with the supply chain, and we want to generate value to people through developing an ethical, responsible, safe, and sustainable chain. We can break down our strategy in two different fronts here: sustainability in the value chain and corporate governance. When we talk about sustainability in the value chain, this encompasses every aspect: the environment, society, transparency, and traceability, for example. In the second pillar, for a healthy environment, we develop products taking into account their whole life cycle, and we prioritize alternatives with the least impact possible. So we're talking about raw materials, and we're also talking about managing our business eco-efficiently. Finally, to empower our people, we need to ensure an inclusive, safe, and thriving environment for everyone. We work with social responsibility, diversity and inclusion, progress and development for people, and the AESG culture. Based on three big pillars, as I was saying, we made public commitments in this industry in 2020. So these are undertakings or commitments that we want to fulfill by 2024. They are all related to the three pillars. We have many of these commitments under responsible production. So by 2024, 100% of our supplier chain will be traceable and certified. We're going through this process of tracing and certifying our supply chain. We've been doing that since 2020, and all of our supply chain will comply to this by 2024. They will have some kind of certification and some kind of traceability process. We'll have 100% of transparency in our products for clients, with information regarding their content, origin, and manufacturing. We want to show clients information about how these products were manufactured and information about raw materials as well. We want to share more and more information so that clients can increasingly choose their products very well, preferably with low impact products. We also want to be a part of the ISE portfolio at Bovespa. We are a listed company, and the ISC portfolio acknowledges sustainable practices in our stock exchange. We want to be in the top 10 companies in retail in Brazil in sustainability indexes. The ISC index is one of them, but we'd love to get a better positioning here. And to get there, we'll have to work on a number of aspects of our supply chain. And finally, recognizing sustainability practices in our brands. We'll be able to do this by working on raw materials, processes, and chains. We want to work on everything related to the development of a product, to the delivery to the end customer. We want to generate value, and we want clients to perceive this value so that this becomes a competitive edge. For a healthy environment, we're talking about having neutral greenhouse gas emissions. By 2024, we'll be offsetting scopes 1, 2, and 3, and scope number 3 is the production chain. We tackled 1 and 2 in 2021, and next year we'll be starting to tackle number 3, taking into account our production chain. We'll have 100% of offsetting here. Packaging produced from recyclable material or biodegradable material is also in this pillar. We're assessing the packaging that we use in our products, and we want to have more and more biodegradable or recyclable packagings. And we have the certification or replacement of raw materials with more sustainable options. We've been working a lot with our chain and our partners to detect and develop alternatives that are going to have the least possible environmental impact. This is how we want to offer customers products with less environmental footprint and maybe a positive impact, especially socially speaking. We also want to use fewer and fewer products from non-renewable sources. And when we talk about empowering people, this has to do with training employees and suppliers, especially when it comes to sustainability. This also entails a big diversity and inclusion project that we've been developing. We're going to offer it and extend it to our supply chain. We want to be among the 3 best companies to work for or great place to work for women in Brazil in retail. And we want to keep on developing footwear. Arezzo started with footwear, and now it goes to retail. But we want to keep on developing footwear options, and we want to train people to work with this. This is our foundation, and it's incredibly important to our business. When it comes to certifying suppliers, right now in our chain, we have suppliers of finished products, raw materials, and leather. For finished goods suppliers, we have the ABV tax certification, which is the Brazilian Textile Association. For raw material suppliers, we have the Sustainable Origin certification. And for leather, we ask for either CSCB or LWG. Right now, in our 3 facilities, we have the ABV tax program. 53% of our suppliers are certified for finished products. By the end of next year, we want 100% of direct suppliers to be certified. And for AR&Co, we have 95% of them. When it comes to raw materials, right now, 10% of our suppliers approximately are undergoing a certification process. This is not mandatory right now. We don't require this from raw material suppliers. Of course, we foster it, but right now, we only require the ABV tax certification and the leather certification. So for leather, including CSCB and LWG, 73% of suppliers are already certified. We're extremely proud of this because we work domestically, of course, but we work internationally as well. And we see a lot of pressure from the international market for leather certification. Internationally, they care a lot about the origin of leather. They want to know if our products are connected to deforestation in the country. This is their biggest point of concern. In the US and in Europe, they are now creating a law to stop items which are related to deforestation from coming into these countries. That is why we're also accelerating this project for traceability in our supply chain, and we want 100% of our suppliers to get certificated or to get certified. So our leather partners, our leather suppliers will need to be certified to continue being our suppliers. And in parallel, we're going to have a big traceability project with the International Development Bank to work on traceability from the beginning to make sure that the leather that we use in our products is not connected to deforestation in Brazil. And right now, in our group, not only with Arezzo, but at AR&Co, 95% of our suppliers are certified in Brazil. And Arezzo is really focused on Vale dos Sinos, but overall, we can ensure that 95% of this production is made in Brazil. This is a big project for us. This is a case study that we released on the 8th of November. And this is not a new brand, but new branding for this brand that we already had, Almi. Almi works with sustainability in a much deeper way. So we have this new branding and this new philosophy of being 100% carbon neutral. We are a more responsible, sustainable, and circular brand with conscious design and raw materials that have less environmental impact. We want to also boost comfort, and we're 100% made in Brazil. Our differentiators here are conscious design, lower impact raw materials, and we worked strongly with suppliers to find these lower impact raw materials. Life cycle assessment in 100% of the products traded through this brand, And this is how we can do the math for the environmental footprint of these products in the environment. Because with this kind of info, brands are going to make a commitment to this every time they have a new cycle or a new collection or new products. And we're trying to reduce this footprint more and more. We also work with 100% of emissions offsetting. Based on the footprint, we see how much CO2 we're emitting from the beginning of its components to the end of the life cycle for this product. And we were able to go neutral for 100% of these items. We also foster well-being for animals. In one of our collections, we have wool, and we worked on traceability for this wool. We visited the farm, we tried to understand how these animals were being raised because we wanted to make sure we were fostering animal well-being. We're also transparent when it comes to our customers. We had a pilot for traceability with blockchain technology, and every product has a QR code, so end customers can see every step of the way, learn where their product was manufactured, understand emissions, understand the environmental footprint for each one of these steps, so that we can truly offer transparent information to customers. And at the end of the life cycle, when clients are no longer interested in these products, they have a service available to them for reverse logistics. So if they're no longer interested, they can go to an Almi store and hand it over to us, and we're going to take care of its disposal. Here you can see some of our items. As I was saying, all of them are traceable through blockchain. These are the QR codes that people can use to do that. This is how we can understand this chain, and we can see every step of the way. You can also check out our website for more information. Right now, this collection doesn't use leather, but we could. We could, as long as this product is truly special when it comes to sustainability. This is always important to us. And in the gray circles, you see the carbon footprint for each one of these products. We were really proud of this project, and this is a special landmark for this program with sustainability. That's what I wanted to share with you today. I hope you were able to understand how we work and the strategy that we've been using. You can also make the most out of these opportunities. Our group has made a commitment towards sustainability. And from now on, we're going to expect our chain to help us, our supply chain. We're going to go hand in hand to make sure we fulfill these commitments. These are so many challenges when it comes to sustainability and products, especially in the leather value chain or supply chain. We have an opportunity to show how important it is to the market and to the industry. It is a byproduct, and we should be talking about it, but there is responsibility to be taken here, and we need to take the wheel when telling this story. We need to ensure sustainability. We need to ensure there's no deforestation. We need to ensure a lower carbon footprint. And we need to work on solutions to reduce the carbon footprint or the environmental footprint. We need to join forces in our supply chain to find these solutions together and to offer end customers a sustainable product. Thank you very much and enjoy the event.
Thank you, Swellen. That's a very nice presentation, very encompassing, including the entire value chain and the suppliers. Thank you, Swellen, and the entire Arezzo group. This is our last sustainability case now. JBS Coros, Kim Sena will be making the presentation. He is the sustainability manager. it's about zero carbon production goal. Good morning, everyone. First off, thank you, CICB, for having me. Thank you for all of you attending the conference. Congratulations to the CICB for organizing this conference. I know how hard it is to put together such a conference. Let me share my screen with you so that we can get started. So my intention is to talk about the production goal of net zero in leather production. This comes from a more comprehensive goal. JBS has made the commitment to be net zero by 2040, and that does not include leather only, but the entire value chain of JBS, including CO2 emissions for scopes 1, 2, and 3. Not only internal operations, it has to do with the energy or the power used, and also emissions generated by its supply chain. This is going to be a very daring goal. It won't be easy, but the plan has been designed. JBS will be investing $1 billion in the next 10 years to address technological development, mapping the chain, and I will tell you how it's going to unfold throughout the organization. The company will make the commitment. We have been doing that in the past 10 years, but we are committed to bring in more and more visibility to the supply chain. That's an integral part of the process, also to reach that net zero goal. And will be involved with every stakeholder, every supplier, and on to the industrial operation per se. JBS is also committed to reaching a 100% renewable energy mix. We are investing in research. You can't reach that daring of a goal not investing in technology. Again, that's an integral part of a net zero project. Executives will be compensated based on environmental goals. Again, it will affect how the company is managed on a daily basis. Every action plan, every goal will be aligned to the SBTI's, Science-Based Target Initiative. You have a very well-defined technical framework, and it has to be aligned with all other companies in the world aiming at the same goal, with that common ambition, which is control and mitigate one of the major threats to humankind, which is looming, which is climate change, of course. So what is the role of leather in that story? You see several elements on this chart, but when you look at the global warming potential of leather, the kilograms of CO2 equivalent for every square meter of leather, you have several data. We've been investing in the life cycle approach because we believe it's more aligned to the commitment to the SBTI, as I said, science-based targets. We have been adopting a way more technical understanding, trying to determine where impacts come from so that we can address them. There are 12 articles on the chart, and that's the makeup of global impact of leather. The orange bar is the cattle raising impact, the farm impact. It's very relevant. Tanning, retanning, the beam house. But again, the orange bar is always significant. Yes, fine, we have to look into the tannery. Oftentimes it's half of the emissions. However, the tannery in itself is not carbon intensive per se, but most of the carbon from cattle raising is allocated to the leather. That's why it's important. And that is why we also have to understand how we can address that portion of our industry, because it's key to the overall impact of leather. Within JBS, this is a key portion of our business. Again, this chart is very complex, but I'm not going to go into detail. This is just a breakdown of these impacts by stage as far as emissions are originated. Let me point your attention to the green bar. That's the cattle raising portion. There are other relevant impacts. These are chemicals in this rosy orange bar. Again, transportation impacts. So defining an optimized global chain with logistics efficiency is very important too, because every impact counts for the overall impact of leather. We have to address the most significant ones, of course. This is a summary of what I was saying using the previous slides. Cattle raising accounts for 50% of the global warming potential of leather. That's why we have to pay attention to it. But not only that, we have to take into account chemicals as well. The life cycle approach, we have to understand what the most important chemicals and devise a plan for it. That's the JBS approach. For every replacement project, chemical replacement project, all the products that are in our R&D pipeline to have more sustainability, we're looking for new chemicals. When it comes down to the decision bottleneck, we assess two aspects: the environmental impact, analyzing its life cycle impact, and also the MRSL, the toxicity of that chemical that will be used in that process. There's an international organization, the ZDHC, that standardizes, that provides a single approach for these toxic chemicals. It has a very detailed list of these chemicals, and we try to analyze the ZDHC. We want a chemical that is aligned or that is approved by the ZDHC, and also if it provides the least environmental impact possible. If it gets a check here, we move on to the economic analysis. Otherwise, we won't be introducing new chemicals if they do not match these two criteria. On to the skins and leather and the impact of cattle raising. We also have to do more in that area. This impact of leather, I'm not going to discuss whether it's leather is a byproduct or not of cattle raising, but according to the rules, part of the impact of cattle raising, according to mass and economic calculations, to leather. This hasn't been announced formally, but it's being discussed at length for quite some time. We'll be sponsoring, we'll be promoting a technical group, an international group, to better understand how the impact of cattle raising is allocated to leather based on breed, nutrition, location, the cattle raising practice that is used, but we have to better understand how the cattle raising impact contributes to the impact of leather. Just by doing so, we'll be able to clearly understand. We want to shed some light into something, and because oftentimes the leather ends up getting the blame. Let me now talk about cattle raising per se. Its emissions come from three major sources: deforestation, the conversion of forest into grazing land, or any other sort of application. But the most important thing is to removing the carbon that is fixed in the forest over to the atmosphere. fermentation of animals. We know digestion in bovines generates methane. So we have to address the methane emissions. And of course, fix carbon in the grazing land. So we have four major pillars in our strategy: monitoring the production chain, traceability, its transformation, and reducing methane. I'm not going to be discussing the monitoring of that chain because JBS has been doing this at length for over 10 years. We monitor every direct supplier. Over 14,000 farms have been banned because they didn't meet our social and environmental criteria, making sure that there's no supply coming from deforested areas, those that are in Indian reservations. JBS has been monitoring their suppliers very well for quite some time. The challenge for the entire industry is to monitor indirect suppliers, suppliers of our suppliers. There's low visibility, the necessary documentation is not there. Those decisions are not readily available to us and our competitors. So JBS announced the Transparent Cattle Raising Platform. It's an inclusive platform that will bring in our suppliers so that they can include data from their suppliers. This will be validated using blockchain, but through that partnership, we'll have more visibility on a very important portion of our chain, our indirect suppliers per se. That's the major challenge for cattle raising and fighting deforestation practices in Brazil. By 2025, JBS will have that as a mandatory requirement. So if our supplier does not have all its suppliers in the platform, with privacy, of course, with the validation of blockchain, if they do not have that, they won't be able to sell to JBS. Again, this platform gives us the most important thing. It's important that our suppliers assess their own suppliers. They have a commitment with us, JBS, but using the platform, they themselves can manage their own suppliers and face that challenge. The green offices are there, they're operational, they provide technical assistance, environmental and legal assistance, so that farmers can address their environmental non-compliances to abide by the Brazilian Forest Code, to reforest portions of their land. So these offices are there in the Brazilian Cerrado and in the Amazon region to support farmers. As to the methane emissions, we can use lemongrass to reduce the methane that's applied to the diet, and we can use tannin. And a third approach that was announced at the COP26, our global CEOs, Gilberto Tomazoni attended COP26. It's a partnership with DSM to use the hottest technology. It was mentioned in Bill Gates' book. That's one of these technological solutions that are available to address methane emissions in cattle raising. So we're very optimistic about this technology. This is yet again a home run on the part of the corporation. Let me just make a comparison. When we talk about emissions, this edition of COP was a landmark. It provided more light on certain discussions. One of them is the responsibility of fossil fuels. So the focus was on coal, but it also discusses tax benefits that are inefficient to other fossil fuels. The focus was on coal, but we know that the discussion will go beyond that. When you look at carbon, CO2, it operates just like water to a certain extent. It's cyclical. Carbon in the atmosphere is cyclical. The problem is that fossil carbon is cyclical, but it takes thousands of years. But as far as human beings go, one generation, two, three generations, it's linear. You remove organic matter that was there under the ground for thousands of years, coal, oil, gas, and we burn it. We remove something that was fixed and we send that to the atmosphere. It's important to draw a comparison with the carbon that comes from animals. That carbon, that methane is cyclical. Let me just make a calculation. The plant promotes photosynthesis. It metabolizes that CO2, produces sugars that are available through the grass. The animal eats, digests it, and through that belching of cows, that methane goes back to the atmosphere. In 10 to 12 years, that methane will oxidate, will become now CO2, and the CO2, once again, will go through the photosynthesis and will become grass again. It's important to understand that, because if you do not increase the herd size on Earth, there's no additional methane. I think it's important to take that into consideration. So the world is going through more yields, but smaller herds. We won't be issuing or emitting more methane. I would like to make that point across because that's a common confusion. And oftentimes we do not take into account the potential of life, unlike the fossil approach. Life, soil, can capture and fix carbon. The soil has that potential. I'm sorry, these slides are in English, but the important thing is to understand life on Earth, the grasses, trees, plants, bushes, they have that potential to create soil. Two major routes. One, through the decomposition of leaf and organic matter. This is how we start initially. But there's yet another important route, and that's through roots, the liquid carbon route. Through roots, you can promote that insertion of carbon into the soil. You can have more microbiologic life. You fix carbon into the soil. Roots are huge. Even grassroots, it can reach all the way up to 4 meters in depth. It's just astounding. We don't often realize that. So, including soil into the ground are part or is part of the same process. It's positive because you can promote the creation of food, agriculture, cattle raising. You can feed a growing population, but at the same time, these are mechanisms to reduce post-industrialization impacts that will end up in global warming. I think it's important to take that into account because more and more this has been discussed. Cattle raising plays an important role in that area too. Major herds or large herds have never destroyed the soil. It's not the amount of head, but the time they are in the same area. If you adopt correct management practices, if you promote that rotation, these animals can actually promote that disruption, that they break that stationary stage that is not positive. Disruption is not negative per se. If an animal's there grazing, not stomping onto the soil, but eating, they work as a catalyst in that metabolism. That grass was there, was not bioavailable. The animals are making that grass bioavailable to the soil, something digested, something that can be used to humidify soil. Grass, unlike a leaf or a leaf will fall from a tree, will decompose. The grass will dry out. After some time, it oxidates, but it remains there. It provides shade to the ground. And disruption is important there. A herbivore will come and graze and work the soil, remove that from that stationary stage. Every ray of sun that you can actually transform into life through photosynthesis, that would be wasted if it were to hit dry ground, a lifeless soil. It would be reflected and would be transformed into heat, and it wouldn't contribute at all to face our challenge. Just to draw a comparison here, every ton of carbon that oxidates on the ground, if it's not protected, if soil is not protected, if it oxidates, it goes to the atmosphere. Every ton amounts to 3.7 tons of CO2 going into the atmosphere. And the opposite is also true. At every ton of carbon fixed on the soil, you have less or fewer 3.7 tons of CO2 from the atmosphere. Again, we have major challenges in our industry, but science has proven time and time again that science can be an ally to life, to production, to holistic management systems, because they can truly bring that arrow down into the soil, a healthy solution to the planet. In conclusion, let me show you that chart. When we talk about a cradle-to-cradle approach, this is how to reduce linear processes and bring in the circular approach. Everything should be from cradle to cradle, not from cradle to the landfill. You have the biological cycle and the production cycle. Leather comes from the biological cycle. You can come up with a hybrid product using chemicals instead of using metals in the tanning process. It's not completely biodegradable if you adopt those metals, but we know that we do have technical methods through hydrolysis, for example, to bring leather back into the biological cycle. If we treated with care, just like I showed you, cattle raising, agriculture, they have something very strong behind them, a huge potential to provide solutions. But leather, per se, as a material, it's a living material. It lives in the biological cycle. If we work to keep it that way, it will prove to be a material for the future, completely in tune with the needs of a circular economy. That's it. This is my email. Once again, thank you for attending the conference. I hope I have not exceeded my time. Don't hesitate to get in touch. Thank you.
E conhecer em profundidade os projetos da empresa.
It's great to hear from Kim and to get to know the company's projects in depth. Many thanks to all of our colleagues at JBS Codos. Again, we would like to thank everyone for your attendance. These were 2 days of lots of learning and great experiences for the leather industry and for our entire supply chain. Sustainability is in our day-to-day, and experiences like this make us reflect, come up with new ideas, and find projects that can support us in this great journey of building a better world for the people and for the planet with our connected environment. Many thanks to our sponsors. Gold sponsors are JBS Coros, NBN Tecnologia, Smith and Zune. Our silver sponsors are ATC Brazil, Buckman, Euro America, the Tanning Industry Union for leather, skins, and other items from the state of Mato Grosso, called Sincurti, in Units, Brazil. Soon, we'll make these 2 days of the CSCB Sustainability Forum available on our social media. Thank you very much for your attendance and see you next year.